let's get this show on the road.
Hey guys, welcome back to VeggieLand Discord YouTube. And today we are finally back. We are finally back with another review. That's right. Today I'm going to actually be doing a review based on Veggietales in the house. Well, on some episodes I watched about Veggietales in the house. So, a few nights ago, I was home alone. I was on Netflix. I noticed it was on Netflix, Veggietales in the house. I was like, okay. I watched about 8 episodes in total, and I am going to review them. And, yeah, sorry. I know it's been a while since I uploaded, but I'm back. So, you know, I'll say this right now. I've watched these episodes. I think that In the House is way too overhated. I'll say that. But let's get into the episodes. So the first episode I watched, these were all in season 4, I think. I looked it up. I wanted to make sure what season was. It was season 4. The first episode I watched was Chef Larry. So supposedly in this episode, Larry invites his house guests over and he wants to give them a dish that's good. He tries cooking a dish, it's not good. So guess what he does? He goes to Bob and he's like, hey Bob, help me cook this stuff. So Bob ended up doing all the cooking and Larry came out and served the food, and then people were like, oh Larry, this is good. So everyone thought Larry was the one cooking the dishes, and instead of Larry saying, oh no, Bob helped, he gave all the credit to himself. And then a bunch of times Bob had to make all the food for Larry and, have no credit at all. And finally, after a while, Bob was like, Larry, you had enough of this. You should tell the truth. And Larry was like, okay, fine. So in the end of the episode, he told the truth. And in the end, they were all happy again. It's been a long day. I'm sorry, guys. But, Bob forgave Larry, and then they both ended up cooking dishes together, and Bob taught Larry how to cook, so Larry became a decent cook then. And that's when it goes into the next episode, Lost in the Woods. Now, this episode revolves around Mayor Archibald, specifically Mayor, and Bob and Larry. They went, I forgot where they were traveling to. They were trying to go, camping. Bob and Larry invited Archibald to go camping with them. Archibald was like, Archibald wanted to, he was busy. He wanted to do his job, but Larry and Bob insisted, so he went along right with them. And then it was all fun and games until eventually they realized that they're in the middle of nowhere and they forgot which way they came from, so they were lost. So they're lost in the woods. And throughout the episode, it's not much happening, to be honest. It's just Archibald being like, why did I come on this camping trip with you? And it was Bob and Larry trying to find a way, to find out throughout the woods. And then in the middle of the episode, they had a few scenes of Jimmy and Jerry fooling around, also going camping, doing stuff. I forgot what they were really specifically doing, but doing funny stuff. But then those were the minor scenes. Then we go back to the major story line. Larry, Bob, and Archibald agreed to go find the mayor house again, and then the episode took a very weird turn when suddenly this giant cat thing started coming right at them, so they had to hide from that. And eventually, once they escaped the cat or whatever the heck that thing was, they had to climb this mountain. And then once they reached the mountain, oh hey, look, we're home. So, my opinion, Lost in the Woods was a meh episode. Could have had more content. Chef Larry was also an okay episode. Nothing too special. Now, when we go into the third episode I watched, which was Silly Arm Wrestling. This episode had to do with Larry wanting to be a professional arm wrestler. I forgot about the beginning, but I think like all the guys were talking about arm wrestling, and Larry of course had to be Larry and be like, hey yo, I'm the best at arm wrestling. And they were like, oh yeah, prove it. And then Larry told this false story about bringing down arm wrestling this one big huge giant and then taking him down to the ground, but obviously fake. But to prove it, Mr. Nezer challenged Larry to go up against one of his, friends, pets, whatever, which is, I think, a turtle or a dinosaur. I watched this 2 nights ago and I'm forgetting. And then, they challenged each other, but then Mr. Nezer's contestant ended up beating Larry, and the crowd was shocked, and Larry had to come clean and be like, oh, I lied about the story. I'm sorry, guys. And then, they were disappointed, but in the end they forgave him. And, yeah, not gonna lie, episode, kind of a dumb topic to cover, but at least it was a silly episode. I'll give that. It's a silly episode. Next one I watched was called Silly No More. This episode, basically, Larry had to have tea and crumpets with Madame Blueberry, but, so he arrived at her house with a cowboy hat on, and Madame Blueberry was like, no, Larry, you cannot have tea and crumpets with me. And the reason was because he was too silly, apparently. And Larry was sad that he couldn't have tea and crumpets with Madame Blueberry. So he decided to go back to Bob and wanted to Bob to teach him how to be serious. And, Bob was so, excited to teach him about it, obviously, since Larry annoys him all the time, and that he's a party pooper. But, Bob taught him how to be serious. A few silly steps. And eventually Larry became serious, but too serious. He invited Archibald, Petunia, and Madame Blueberry over for tea and crumpets. But when he found out that Petunia, Madame Blueberry, and Archibald were joking around, he got angry because they weren't serious enough. So he made this strike list for those 3 people. Every time they laughed or told a joke, he would put a check mark under that person's name. And then eventually they got annoyed, and Madame Blueberry was like, oh, that's just too serious. And then they all left. And Larry was like, oh, I have to be silly again. So he went back to Bob, and Bob taught him. Actually, no, he did not go back to Bob. He went to, what's her name? Laura Carrot. Because, I didn't mention the Laura Carrot scene from before, but apparently, before Larry wanted to become serious, he told Laura Carrot, because Laura Carrot was feeling down, that to just be silly and be yourself, and she was like, okay, and she was all happy. But then, when he went to Laura Carrot taught him how to be silly again by doing this silly song about being silly. It was an okay song. And in the end, Larry was silly again, and that was the end of the episode. I actually liked that episode. Now, next episode is Stunt Driving School. So, in this episode, Jimmy, Bob, Larry, Bacon Bill go to a stunt driving school that Petunia teaches, and the reason is because Larry wanted to go on like this cool loopy track, except the police officer showed up and said that he couldn't use the track unless he had a stunt driving license, so they had to go to a stunt driving school. And I admit it was a pretty funny episode, a few fails, a few successes, and Larry and Bob passed, but I don't know about Jimmy and Bill. I know that Bacon Bill didn't. He wiped out. But because he cheated. He should never cheat. Cheating's bad. But it was a pretty funny episode. Not a bad episode too. Off the rails is the next one. Probably my least favorite out of this list. Apparently in this episode, Bob wanted to go on vacation. He was the conductor who would bring people around the house or the town, whatever. And Archibald said, you should pick someone to replace you while you're on vacation. And it was Larry and Mr. Nezer. Bob chose Larry to be the conductor instead of Mr. Nezer because he's close friends with Larry, even though Mr. Nezer turned out to be the way better conductor. And when Larry was conductor, he ended up messing up the whole ride, and it was a disaster. Bob had to come back from vacation and save the day. Then in the end, Bob was like, okay, I'm sorry. He apologized to Mr. Nezer, and Mr. Nezer became the conductor. Everything was fine. Wait, no, Mr. Nezer came to save the day, not Bob. What am I doing? And turned out, even though Larry's a great friend, he's a terrible conductor. A terrible conductor. Now, 2 more episodes left. Next one is Jimmy and Jerry's Big Mess. So, I actually liked that they made them, messy because, Jimmy and Jerry, they're fat. They like food. So I'm not a little surprised that they put this episode in. Oh, Jimmy and Jerry were like, we're too lazy to clean this up. Let's go live in someone's house. So they first lived in Bob's house. They ended up trashing the place, so Bob kicked them out. Then they decided to visit everyone's house in town. But then in the end, they were kicked out of all the homes, and they had no other place in their home. So they decided to start cleaning up. And they ended up cleaning up, and their houses were fine. Overall, it was a meh episode, but then it ended off with everyone else wanting Jerry and Jimmy to clean all their houses, but not too much happened in that episode. Final episode is Beatbox Bill. Basically, in this episode, Larry and Bill want to start a band, and they do. But then people discover a talent. But then Bacon Bill discovers a talent, beatboxing. So Larry's like, okay, cool, let's add this in the band. But then when Larry and Bacon Bill were performing, the audience only focused on Bacon Bill, not Larry. So Larry got annoyed, and then Bacon Bill ended up having this beatboxing career. And Larry felt sad. And then he tried to get new band members, but the new band members ended up being terrible, so he was just like, okay, forget it. And then in the end, Bacon Bill apologized to Larry about the whole beatbox career, and Larry accepted it. And then in the end of the episode, they both formed back, and Larry did his singing and Bill did his beatboxing. Everyone was cheering, everyone was happy again. It was not a bad episode. So, out of all these episodes, altogether, a grade average, I'd probably give it a C plus. Yeah, C plus. Out of all the episodes I watched in total. So, yeah. That is my review. And I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And just make sure to give Veggietales in the House a try. It's not that bad of a series. I feel like it's overhated. When the show that should be when the show that should be more hated is the VeggieTales show. Still don't understand the hype around it, but anyways, this is a review, not a rant. I want to thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.